Testing, testing. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And we're live, folks. Hello. Just popping on just before 9 for the Dune Book Club. I think we're okay. So just about coming up to 9 o'clock. If anybody's out there in YouTube, say hello. We're going to get on with chapter 18 tonight of Frank Herbert's Dune. And this is where it all starts to go a wee bit wrong. Well, I suppose it's been going wrong for House Atreides for a little bit. And you'll have to excuse me, we're a wee bit out of sorts here tonight. We're not having the best of days in the doghouse, unfortunately. But I suppose just in terms of thinking things going today, I'll just start off by saying to my wife, happy birthday. Happy birthday, love. And I'm genuinely really sorry about today. We've had a bit of a day today, unfortunately, here at the doghouse. And sadly, the oldest of our ladies, Bonnie, our Jack Russell, is not very well at all, and I think she's had a wee bit of a heart attack or something. So she's resting with us downstairs at the minute, and we're keeping a wee eye on her. But essentially, we're into I think psychopompery tonight, and it's a bit sad, really. The poor wee love. She's a gorgeous wee dog, lovely personality. So yeah, it's a wee bit sad. We've had a bit of a day trying to just keep an eye on her and getting her to the vets and getting back here and just. And I've kind of cancelled all my students. So if any of my students are watching, again, I'm sorry about that. Dear, oh dear. So we're keeping a wee eye on Bonnie tonight, and it's my wife's birthday as well. So we've had to cancel dinner and all sorts of things. So we're just going to have to reschedule, I think. But it's been a bit of a day, sadly. So we thought we'd just pop on and didn't want to cancel this again, I'm afraid. And the wee doggie's comfortable downstairs. So we thought we'd get on with this tonight anyway and run through it. And I'll try not to be too too doom and gloom, etc. But thank you very much, as always, for joining me, everybody. Chaya's saying shalom, Chaya. Thanks for joining us. And Bojack says, happy birthday, Mrs. Sloan. Thanks very much, Bojack. She usually watches some of these wee episodes whenever we run through them afterwards. So I'm sure she appreciates it, but I'll pass it on anyway. But thank you. As I said, she's not having a great day. We had a really early start with the dog, and then trying to get an emergency appointment with the vet, and that's how our day is going. And as you can see, folks, I do apologise a wee bit. We're supposed to be, as you can see, we've been caught in the middle of. We've been decorating as well. This place is long overdue a lick of paint, so it's all a bit chaotic, I'm afraid. And it's just one of those things. But yeah, and it's the wife's birthday. Excuse me. But no, she's a good woman and she understands, and she's downstairs looking after her nibs at the minute. So here we go. Let me adjust my seat. It's been another beautiful day here in Northern Ireland. It's still a bit chilly in the evenings, but had lovely clear blue skies for about the third day in a row. It's gorgeous here. So there we go. Let's have a wee look. Chapter 18. This is quite a short one. There we go. Starting in this edition on page 169. And this is where I sort of call this one. This is where the fall of the House of Atreus really begins. And we've seen all the various elements, all the different threads of the Harkonnen plan from way back. We've seen them play out with pretty much the success, I think, that the Baron had hoped for. We've seen the attempt on Paul's life. We've seen the manipulation and suspicion of Jessica to mess with Hawat. And of course, we have the traitor, and the suspicion of all of this, and of course the Emperor's hand behind it all. And we've always had a sense of time, sort of that there's not enough time for the Atreides, and this is where basically the beginning of the end, if you like, of the Harkonnen plan kicks in. And yeah, we start off with our epigraph. Do you wrestle with dreams? Do you contend with shadows? Do you move in a kind of sleep? Time has slipped away. Your life is stolen. You tarried with trifles, victim of your folly. Dirge for Jamis on the funeral plain from the songs of Muad'Dib. Excuse me. There's Cynthia saying, "Hi Doc, sorry to hear your dog is ill." Thank you, Cynthia. It's one of those things. She's been with us since for a long, long time, and she's actually really my dad's dog, but she's my girl, if you know what I mean. And yeah, she's a character. I have to say, I'll tell you maybe a few wee stories about her at some point. But she was at my wedding. I must show you a photo of her too. But she's a lovely wee thing, such a gentle girl, really the real lady of the house, if you know what I mean. And yeah, she's just pretty old, I think. So she's very comfortable downstairs, and she's just resting, you know. But it's I think we'll have a wee bit of a night with her and see how she does, basically. So hopefully there's a chance she might pull through, you know. So here we go with our. But thank you very much for your kind words, folks. And I'm sorry. I hope it's just one of those things, isn't it, with life, you know. So of course we start off with, I mean, the key words within this. It's all very sort of Jungian and Freudian, isn't it? We have dreams, shadows, sleep, time stolen, this tied with trifles, victim of your folly. This is a dirge, of course, a funeral song for Janus in the funeral plane. So we have a wee mention of Janus here at this point, which is just worth taking a wee note of. Of course, he'll be quite important later on, actually. Excuse me. So basically, this chapter starts off. We have pretty much Leto in the foyer of the house, and he's studying a note. The way this is lit is by the light of a single dispenser lamp. We're told that dawn is yet a few hours away, and I was trying to figure this one out. Actually, maybe you guys can help me. I've questioned what initially when writing my notes here. I thought, is this the third day? And I kind of now know it's not, because I've later drawn a wee arrow. But I was trying to get a sense of where they're at in terms of time here. Let me just check my wee note. Dawn was yet a few. He felt that's no signature. Dawn was yet a few hours away. He felt his tiredness. A Fremen messenger brought the note to the outer guard just now as the Duke arrived from his command post. No, I'm not too sure where it is. So I was trying to figure out, is this the third day on? But I think it's actually, we're told it's possibly, I've gone with question, no, it's the fourth day. But I think there may be something else later on that maybe changes that, you know. There's Babs saying, evening Doc, howdy y'all. Hi Babs, thanks for joining us. Second day after the banquet. So that's what I was trying to figure out. Oh, well, that's in another book now, hasn't it? We've done that many notes. Bear with me a wee second. Banquet scene, where are we? Oh, back a bit. Oh, that's 16. There we go. Just very quickly, folks, let me just have a wee nosy if I had a wee time. I usually make a wee note on time at the start of each scene. Time to Green Great House, early dark. That was that. I'm not too sure. Just in the context of the story, I was trying to figure it out a wee bit there. I thought, yeah, second day after the banquet. I must backtrack and check how long they've been here at this point. And so that would make it the fourth day, wouldn't it? I think possibly. I don't know. Must double check. Yeah, it's a curious one for me. So sorry, we're told in the time frame within the day then. Dawn is yet a few hours away. Leto felt tiredness, and a Fremen messenger has been to the outer guard, given a note at the point when the Duke arrived from the command post. So this note, I think is quite funny. A column of smoke by day, a pillar of fire by night. There's no signature, and also I've put in no context at all. And what does it mean? He wondered. And I've put this as funny. I mean, what second week on Arrakis banquet was a week after arrival. Thank you, Chaya. Excellent. Yeah. Just trying to get it in my head, actually. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate it. Yeah, because I was running with a kind of, is this the third day? Symbolic, something like that. But if it's no, it's in the second week. Thank you very much, Chaya. What does it mean? He wondered. And I've just made it. It's kind of funny. This messenger has left without waiting for an answer, and he had slipped into the night like some smoky shadow. So, I've put a question here. Is this a cultural misunderstanding? Is this in terms of the note? Is this a metaphor that, or has it got a religious context that has gone right over Leto's head? And I'm not even sure. It's possible that it is explained a little bit further on in the book, but my memory wouldn't allow me to recall that. So we'll perhaps find out. But a column of smoke by day is a pillar of fire by night, and I think it's probably, it's it's a warning of some kind. But culturally, I don't know. It reminds me of, I don't know if you've seen there's a Star Trek episode of Star Trek Next Generation. It's rather good. And I'm trying to remember what it's called. I think it's called Darmok. And I suppose it's Next Generation's version of Arena, isn't it? Excuse me. And the issue in that episode is, I suppose, a cultural misunderstanding, because the being from the species that Picard meets talks in cultural metaphor in relation to sort of epics and poems and stuff like this. And they work it out. It's a great episode if anyone hasn't seen it. Very interesting, actually, from a language point of view. It has no meaning to this guy, and it's of probably crucial importance. And it's one of those things I think it's going to be lost. Certainly lost on Leto anyway. So he pops the note into his tunic pocket, and he decides he'll show it to Hawat later. He brushes a lock of his hair with sighing breath, and we're told that he's on anti-fatigue pills. Let me see. The anti-fatigue pills, and that they're wearing thin, aren't they? And he's at the point where it's been 2 days since he slept. Been a long 2 days since the dinner party, and longer than that since he'd slept. There we are. That's where we're working on the time thing there. Yes. Pillars of smoke and fire, etc. Exodus. Thank you, Babs. Yeah, that's it's bound. As I said, I've put a wee question mark in terms of cultural misunderstanding, question mark, metaphor, question mark, religious question mark, religious context, question mark, important question mark, all next to this note, and the smoke fire metaphor. So yeah, absolutely. I think it, and again, in terms of biblical references, etc., things like that. It's possible it's going to be from one of the, I suppose, the Abrahamic texts, or a version of the OC Bible, possibly. I figured if it was OC Bible, why wouldn't Leto probably recognize it? But then again, we get the sense that, isn't it? We're told that the bulk of, I suppose, the houses of the Landsraad, I think, are agnostic in their nature. But whatever it is, it certainly goes past them. And yeah, it's just one of those things. Basically, on top of that, so of all the military problems, we're told he's having, there had been a disquieting session with Hawat, and where we've been told that the report on his meeting with Jessica. And this made me ask a wee question, by the way, folks. I put how, and if you see what I mean, in the previous chapter where we have this encounter between Jessica and Thufir Hawat, I was pretty sure that she said to him, "You will tell no one of this." Let me just quickly check. You want to do monstrous ones, blah blah blah. Let's see. Always trying to find. You'll say yes. Here we are. I can't. That's what the point where he says, where Jessica says, "We truly exist only to serve." In the previous chapter, we were talking about, I can't, how it says, "I can't answer you," and you know that I cannot answer you. And the next point, she says, "You'll say nothing to no one." And I've written next to that in the previous chapter, is that a suggestive command? Because I don't think she. Oh yeah, no, yeah, she has used the voice on him at that point. So if that's simply put, sorry about that, folks. We're just having a wee look at for that. Jessica says to him, "Yeah, tell no one of this. You'll say nothing to no one." Oh, I wonder, could that be one if by land, two if by sea, from the ride of Paul Revere, says Chaya. Thank you, Chaya. I was just wondering there. So that's when Howard has had the voice used on him, I suppose. Tell nothing of this to no one. You'll say nothing to no one. Sorry for it is one of my whimsical things again, I suppose. How if he's had a report with Leto about his meeting with Jessica, how has he explained things to him? And I was just wondering, is that one of those quite silly ones where we have a double negative? So if say nothing to no one means say something to somebody, doesn't it? So I was just curious about that, and again, I don't know what you think, guys. So he goes again. We have Leto's thoughts, wondering, should he awaken Jessica? And in relation to, I suppose, the conversation with Howard, he notes that there's no reason to play the secrecy game with her anymore. And then in his head, I suppose, or is there, is there a reason to keep going at it? And blast and damn that Duncan Idaho, it's all his fault. But no, it's not. And here we go. So it's not Duncan. I was wrong not to trust Jessica. And I put, yeah, that's correct. I must do it now, and I must do it before more damage is done. So he's come to this decision, and for once he's not blaming someone else. I suppose it's not Duncan's fault. I was not wrong. I was wrong, sorry, to take Jessica into my confidence from the first. Correct. And I must do it now before more damage is done. So this makes Leto feel better. Excuse me. And off he goes. And we take a wee sort of run through the various parts of the building that we've seen so far, through the foyer, down to the Great Hall, down to the family wing. And we get a wee bit more description. And as he turns, he heads into the passage that is split into the service area, and he pauses, and we hear this strange mewling sound coming from the service passage. So I've just made the mewling's an interesting word there. And mewling is I suppose is a word either associated with, we would say, babies, but also cats and birds, I think. Mewling, this kind of particular sound, and it's an interesting sound. He uses this word a couple of times. And quite interestingly, as Leto approaches, here we go. He has the hand on the switch of his shield belt, but he hasn't turned it on. He's got a kinjal in his right hand, and the knife, we're told, gives him a sense of reassurance. There is a strange sound, sends a chill through him. Excuse me. And I made a wee note, sort of this mewling from, as we'll find out, is from Mapes. I've made a wee note, is this a bit like a Whale of the Banshee? This kind of thing. So he goes down the service passage, curses the illumination here. Again, Herbert just using the character's point of view to set up, paint the scene a bit for us. We're told that they're using only the smallest suspensors here, and they're 8 meters apart, and that they've been turned to the dimmest level. So you can imagine that sort of lighting every few meters, sort of darkness, a little patch of light, darkness, a little patch of light at the dimmest level. Real sense of atmosphere, and helps build the tension a wee bit here. This one here is a wee bit of a, I don't know what you think on this one, guys. Softly, where are we? Here we are. A dull blob stretching across the floor appeared out of the gloom ahead. And I just thought this is one of those moments where I think Frank's not being a particularly brilliant writer, but a dull blob will go with it, fair enough. And he uses it again. And of course we get the gloom, and Leto hesitates. So he hesitates, almost activates his shield, but doesn't. And we have to ask, why? What's he doing? This is the one thing that sort of House Atreides relies on. It's designed to protect him. He's not turning it on. This is the second time we've mentioned the shield here in this chapter, and he's not activating it. He's almost activating it. His hand is nearby it. Answer: limit his movements, limits his hearing. He tells us this. There we go. Sorry, something popping up on the screen there. Bear with me a wee second, folks. Let's see. Yeah, also, now, this is the thing, and again, part of I think, the Harkonnen plot here, because of the captured shipment of lasguns, had left him filled with doubts. And we talked about this previously, that they'd got, this is involving the theft of some lasguns, etc., and that I think they'd retrieved one shipment, but it was, wasn't it correct? I think that had been stolen, but it was suggested that the Harkonnens had got more shipments of lasguns, and the possibility that these weapons could be rigged to fire at a shield and create an atomic explosion. This idea was sort of dismissed, wasn't it, as by Hawat, as it's just too much, that you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. But this information that's come in is the thing that's making him hesitate here. The sense that there's a possibility of a las weapon. To fire it in a corridor or that kind of thing, a small room, I suppose, would be, you'd need somebody who's suicidal. So that's what I've simply put. Was that the whole point of it? The thing about the lasguns, simply to make the Atreides doubt the technology that they rely on. And in this case, I think, yes, it's worked, if that is part of the nature of the Harkonnen trap. So he moves towards the grey blob and sees that it's a human being, a human figure. It's a man, and he's face down. Leto turns him over with his feet, and his knife poised, and he's bent close in the dim light to see the face. And here we have our first victim. So that first of a couple of people murdered in this chapter that we've met previously, and it's Esmer Chewik. So it's the smuggler, the smuggler leader. He's a wet stain on his chest, which is warm. He's dead. And of course, Leto asks, how could this man be dead here? What's this guy doing here? How is it possible that this man is dead here? And I've written next to it, he's a smuggler. He's he's a shady sort of character, and could be probably anywhere doing all sorts of things. So who killed him? And again, this mewling sound we get interrupts, and it's louder here ahead and down the side passage, where we're told the central room is. And this is the room that's where the Atreides have installed the main shield generator for the house. So, third time, hand on belt switch. There we go. Excuse me, not turned on. Kinjal poised. The Duke skirted the body, slipped down the passage, and peered around the corner toward the shield generator room. And here we have another grey blob, stretched out on the floor a few paces away. And this is the source of our mewling noise, of course. It's crawling towards him with painful slowness, gasping and mumbling. And it's Mapes, isn't it? Sadly. And Leto, we're told, stills his sudden constriction of fear, darted down the passage, crouched beside the figure. So it's Mapes, poor old Mapes. Um, I'll just read this wee bit. It was Mapes, the Fremen housekeeper, her hair tumbled around her face, clothing disarrayed. A dull shininess of dark stain spread from her back along her side. He touched her shoulder and she lifted herself on her elbows, head tipped up to peer at him. The eyes black shadowed emptiness. "It's you," she gasped. "Killed. Guard. Sent. Get. Chuik. Escape. My lady. You. You. Here. No!" And she flopped forward, her head thumping against the stone. Poor old Mapes. So Leto feels for a pulse and there's no. So we've had two of our minor characters bumped off real quick here. And we didn't really get to know Esmer too much, but he was certainly an interesting character as we've seen him at the banquet scene, etc. And Mapes is a character I absolutely adore. I think what a great character she was, and it's genuine. Oh no, this is I think it's a sad wee moment. Mapes I could have actually always kind of imagined. Mapes accompanying Muad'Dib on his jihad. If you see what I mean, I thought Mapes would have made him a mighty Fremen warrior. And it was one of those characters that, as much as we get a lot of characters brought back over the Dune series, Mapes is a firm favourite of mine, I have to say. And I just think it's a very clever little character, and I really like it a lot. So poor old Mapes has been bumped off, rather sadly. And has been the main representative, if you like, of the Fremen up to a point. So sadly, poor old Mapes. There's the stain indicates that Mapes has been stabbed in the back. Who again? Leto's thinking his mind raced. Did she mean someone killed the guard? Chuik had Jessica sent for him. Why? All these random words are seemingly random words that poor old Mapes has spouted her sort of death spasm, Jessica sent from why he started to stand up, and we're told a sixth sense warned him. But it's a bit too late. Once again, he flashed a hand towards the shield switch, but it's too late. And we're told that a numbing shock slams his arm aside, and he feels pain, and there's a dart protruding from his sleeve. He sensed paralysis spreading from it, and an agonizing effort it took to lift his head and look. And of course, Yui, and he's framed here for us by Herbert. And I think I'm wondering, does David Lynch kind of give him a similar framing in the film? I must have a wee look at it again. It's of course who's the oh no, it's Dr. Yui's the traitor. Oh, who would have seen that coming? Yui stood, and I'll just read this for you. Yui stood in the open door of the generator room, his face reflected yellow from the light of a single brighter dispenser above the door. There was stillness from the room behind him, no sound of generators. And of course, Yui, Leto thought, he sabotaged the house generators. We're wide open. So this is the culmination of all of these things we've been told about the traitor in House Atreides, and of course we've known who it was all this time. and we've kind of got to know Yui a little bit through his interactions with House Atreides, and there's even a certain amount of sympathy for him here, Cynthia says Chuik represents the avenue of escape if things go wrong on Dune. His early death is the end of any hope Leto and Jessica have for escape to Chupa. Excellent, Cynthia. Thank you very much. That's a very, very good point. He is their way out, isn't he? And you've got to assume that, why of all of the characters is Chuik here and dead? I think Mapes. Is it possible? Is it Mapes that summoned him? Possibly, I can't remember. But yeah, absolutely. The whole communication with Jessica, the whole thing. My God, can't Leto see this? It's the way out for the Atreides, even if they lose their own ships. The smugglers have ships, and they could get them to Chupai. I always actually keep wondering about this because Chupai is such a weird sounding word, isn't it? And I was wondering, I wonder is it pronounced differently? And I was thinking, wonder would it be Tupali, which sounds nicer, doesn't it, than Tupile. Thank you very much for pointing that out, Cynthia. Absolutely. So if that's the fact that that's of all the people here, the escape route is the first victim. There's no, and again we've been told. I think is it that wasn't it Hawat that suggested that this could be a work of art amongst Canley, and I think it is actually. Excuse me. So Yui, Leto thought he sabotaged the house generators. Were wide open, and I made one other wee comment there, folks. That's a good an example of Bangaria right there. You've got 3 exclamation marks all within one small paragraph. So yes, indeed, it's Yui. Leto thought he sabotaged the house generators. Were wide open, and of course, so imagine there's Yui just lit, in the sort of yellow light of this suspenser, with the silent, the room behind him, almost framed in the doorway, and he walks towards him. It's kind of almost as we say, a sort of cinematic reveal, if you like. But it's that's his moment, and Yui walks towards him, pockets his dart gun, and Leto at this point can still talk, and he let's see, let's have a wee look. Just find my notes here, folks. Leto found he could still speak, gasped, "Yui, how?" And then the paralysis reached his legs, and he slid to the floor with his back propped against the stone wall. Pardon me. Yui's face carried a look of sadness as he bent over. Pardon me, sorry, I'm a bit burpy here, folks. Touched Leto's forehead. The Duke found he could feel the touch, but it was remote, dull. So Yui's got, again, there is a sense of, Yui isn't super ecstatic about this. Again, we've the way he's been talking throughout, my dear Duke, this kind of thing. We're going to see this in his language towards Leto here. Excuse me. But he is sad. He's a look of sadness. He tells us that the drug on the dart is selective, that Leto can speak, but he would advise against it. And he glances down the hall, and he pulls out the dart, and Leto can hear the sound of the dart on the floor being faint and distant. So we're getting a sense of distance with Leto. Remote, dull, faint, distant to the Duke's ears. So we're getting a wee sense of that dislocation as he within himself as he feels the drug taking place there. And I think this is just this moment here is I don't know what you think about this, but I think it's a spectacular, just a spectacular moment. Excuse me, it can't be Yui, Leto thought. He's conditioned. I'll leave that. I'll just wonder what you think about this, but I just gone. This is almost denial at this point is incredible. I'm going to pause a wee second, folks, because I'm going to need to blow my nose. Give me 1 wee second. I'll be right back. I'll actually hang on. I'll just hang around. I'll just mute the microphone. Here we go. That's better. Thank you very much. Sorry about that, folks. Yeah, poor old Leto, but just at this point, it can't be Yui, Leto thought. He's conditioned. And I just put really, my comment on this is really in the face of this evidence. And I put that's denial. And of course, it's only a brief moment, isn't it? How? Leto whispered. So we get Yui's explanation. And again, if you listen to there's affection within Yui's language here, and sorrow and sympathy, if you like. I'm sorry, my dear Duke, but there are things which will make greater demands than this. He touched the diamond tattoo on his forehead, I find it very strange myself, an override on my paretic conscience, but I wish to kill a man. Yes, I actually wish it. I will stop at nothing to do it. And he looked down at the Duke. Oh, not you, my dear Duke, the Baron Harkonnen. I wish to kill the Baron Harkonnen. And goodness gracious me, and I've written Tiger, Tiger next to that. And in a sense, there's a wee bit of golly foil about Dr. Yueh, I think. He'll actually stop at nothing, and he does. He really goes all the whole hog here, doesn't he? I made a wee note just for anybody who's not familiar with the term pyretic. Is feverish or something that induces a fever, from the Greek word puritos, which means fever. And I put a wee question about this, and I've asked myself, is this the conditioning of the Suk school? So if we just run through it again out of curiosity, I find it very strange myself that as an override on my pyretic conscience. And he finds it strange himself. So it seems to be, and again, we're told it's an override on his, but he wishes to kill him. My pyretic conscience. And I was kind of wondering, so does that mean that the kind of, I suppose, the imperial conditioning, that if a Suk doctor tries to do something against that conditioning, that it would physically result in the development of a severe fever or something like that, that it would have a physiological effect, and that's what that would be ultimately harmful and possibly fatal to the doctor. And so my question is, that's what I was wondering with this very particular phrase, pyretic conscience. I feel at the same time an override on my feverish conscience, if we want to take it that way. We're going to find out in a wee minute that what Leto actually thinks about Yueh, and I suppose it's that moment of realization that in fact Yueh's mad, isn't it? That's the case. He's insane. He wants to kill the Baron. This is what it's all about. And again, just the sort of way that Herbert runs with this little section, I suppose. The Baron Harkonnen. Oh, be quiet, please, my poor Duke. And we talk about when people are silenced in Dune. It's always worth noting when people are told to be silent or be quiet. It's usually quite important. Excuse me. So here we go. Here's Leto's, Yueh's plan. He says that we haven't much time. There's a let's see. Let me just read this again. That peg tooth I put in your mouth after the tumble at Narkle, that tooth must be replaced. In a moment, I'll render you unconscious and replace that tooth. He opened his hand, stared at something in it. An exact duplicate, its core shaped most exquisitely like a nerve. It'll escape all the usual detectors, even a fast scanning, but if you bite down hard on it, the cover crushes. And then when you expel your breath sharply, you fill the air around you with a poison gas, most deadly. And there we go. So this is the tooth plan. The tooth's one of those things, isn't it? It's very interesting. If we know where tiger, by the way, biting down on your teeth, is also a thing in there. And I mentioned about the Expanse and the influence of tiger on it as well. And again, if you note when people bite down on their teeth in the Expanse, then it's all think of gully foil. So there we go. Leto, here it is. Leto stares up at Yueh and he sees madness, seeing madness in the man's eyes, the perspiration along brow and chin. Madness. Yueh is mad. I've put Yueh is mad question mark, but I think the level of his plan and the fact that he's willing to slaughter so many people to have personal revenge against one individual would indicate strong level of insanity, I think. So he tells Leto, of course, you were dead anyway. And we've been told that since the start as well. You said, but you will get close to the Baron. And against my poor duke, by the way, sorry, I missed that wee bit, but you will get close to the Baron before you die. He'll believe that you'll be stupefied by drugs beyond any dying effort to attack him, and that you will be drugged and tied. And here's those words. Remember, we talk about the words but and yet quite a bit. But there it is. Always watch out for the but and yet. I think words also to pay attention to in Dune. So here we go. Where's the but? But attack can take strange forms, and you will remember the tooth. The tooth, Duke Leto Atreides. You will remember the tooth. And we'll remember the tooth too, the number of times that the word tooth is mentioned to us here in this chapter and reinforced on us almost in a way, as it is on Leto. So he leans closer to Leto, doesn't he? Let's see. Lowered himself to one knee beside the Duke. And here we go. I made a shaitan's bargain with the Baron, and I must be certain he has fulfilled his half of it. Excuse me. When I see him, I'll know. When I look at the Baron, then I will know. But I'll never enter his presence without the price. And you're the price, my poor Duke, and I'll know when I see him. My poor Wana taught me many things, and one is to see certainty of truth when the stress is great. I cannot do it always, but when I see the Baron, then I will know. So it's kind of interesting that Yui's absolutely certain that whenever he sees him, he will know for certain whether his wife is deceased or not. But he actually, within that speech, he admits to himself and to Leto here that he can't always do it. One is to my poor Wana taught me many things, and one is to see certainty of truth when the stress is great. I cannot do it always, but when I see the Baron, then I will know. So there's a level of, again, he actually admits that I can't always do this, but I will know. There's a sense of, and again, maybe it's because of the absolute nature of this final moment, if you like, for him. So Shaitan's bargain, of course, Shaitan. Let's have a wee look. Just to get proper, just having a wee look at Wikipedia. Shaitan are singular shaitan, or evil spirits in Islamic belief, inciting humans and jinn to sin by whispering to the heart. They form a separate class of invisible creatures besides the angels in Islamic tradition, often thought of as ugly and grotesque creatures created from hellfire. Related to the devil is Iblis, etc. Let me see. Blah, blah, blah. So shaitan, etymology. Here we go. Let's have a wee nosy. The word shaitan originated from the triliteral root eshtyan, distant or astray, taking the theological connotation designating a creature distant from divine mercy. In pre-Islamic Arabia, this term was used to designate an evil spirit, but only used by poets who were in contact with Jews and Christians. With the emergence of Islam, the meaning of shaitan moved closer to the Christian concept of devils. The term shaitan appears in a similar way in the Book of Enoch, denoting the hosts of Satan. Taken from Islamic sources, shaitan may be translated as demons, satans, or devils. And I think Satan, in that sense, Satan means adversary, an adversary, doesn't it? I believe. So yeah, within that context of our own Dune universe, of course, Shai Halud and Shaitan are the two sort of aspects, the dualistic chthonic deity, if you like, that the Fremen worship as the worm. So, he's made of devils or a demon's pact, if you like, with the Baron. And that certainty, I'll know. So Leto looks down at the tooth, and I quite like this wee bit actually. Leto tried to look down at the tooth in Yui's hand. He felt this was happening in a nightmare. This is a nightmare. It is. It could not be. Yeah, he felt this was happening in a nightmare. There is something quite grotesque about this as well, isn't there? Again, we get this grotesque way. If we think Yui's continues, Yui's purple lips turned up in a grimace. So I'll not get close enough to the Baron, he says, or I'll do this myself. So no, I'll be detained at a safe distance. But you, now, you, my lovely weapon. He'll want you close to him, to gloat over you, to boast a little. We've had a wee bit of boasting from a number of characters lately, haven't we? Very interesting use of language here. You, my lovely weapon. And so, in a sense, this is the very crux of what Dr. Yui has done, is he has weaponized a human being. And it basically, for want of a better word, or for want of a better phrase, I suppose, he's turning Leto Atreides into a poison gas delivery system. And yeah, the truth of it is that this person is a weapon, and I think it's a very, very interesting statement, and it's something that's worthy of note. And I think, especially in terms of when we consider Paul, that the Kwisatz Haderach is ultimately, I think, a weapon. Yeah. And in all things, we're told about Paul to look to his father. So his father is a lovely weapon, according to Dr. Yui. I think it's a very interesting phrase. Yeah. And, Paul is going to be a lovely weapon as well. And there's something of the monologuing villain here about Yui as well. He'll want you close to gloat, to boast, and Yui's muscles twitch in his face, and we're told Leto's fascinated by them when he speaks. And you, my Duke, you must remember the tooth. It will be another one of these statements here. It will be all that remains of you. Let me just find that again. Yes, you, my lovely weapon. Yeah, it will be. Sorry, just want to make sure I was reading that quotation properly. It will be all that remains of you. This tooth, and possibly in a funny way, if we think about the epigraphs that we've read about Leto Atreides, as we've come to this point, and we're not at his death yet, but they very much represented a mythical sense of a man, I think, rather than a real individual. And I think again we could maybe interpret that statement in many ways. It will be all that remains. Oh, so it'll be all that remains to you. Sorry, I've misread that, haven't I? Yeah, there you go. Sorry about that, folks. I've totally misread that. I was going somewhere a wee bit deep with that. I thought it said it will be all that remains of you. Apologies. I was going to say then, thinking that from that point on, the man's name everything about him becomes subject to myth, doesn't it? But it is, and it's all that remains to you. Sorry. So he is a weapon, and of course he says, no, you mustn't refuse, because in return for this small service, here we go, I'm doing a thing for you. And I made a wee note, by the way. The phrasing of that's very similar to I don't know if you remember back a few chapters where I must do a thing. It was Leto saying it, something that he doesn't want to do. And it's just the way it's described. I was doing a thing, if you see what I mean. Very similar. I'm doing a thing for you. I will save your son and your woman. No other can do it. They can be removed to a place where no Harkonnen can reach them. And we get again, that I save them, So this is quite sort of, the tension, the dramatic interaction here is quite good. And it's quite sort of, you can imagine it well in your own mind, I think. Leto whispered, by making it appear that they're dead. Here we go, the plan. This is Yui's plan, really, isn't it? Secreting them amongst the people who draw a knife at the Harkonnen name, who hate the Harkonnens so much. And we're told that they will burn a chair in which a Harkonnen has sat and salt the ground over which a Harkonnen has walked. And I've written next to that one, no way. There's no way. I just thought that was a very interesting statement. Burn a chair in which a Harkonnen has sat. Fair enough. For Fremen, salt the ground over which a Harkonnen has walked. I thought that was a metaphor that went far too far, and that I don't think the Fremen would dare waste salt in such a manner. Salt would have enormous importance to living in the desert, almost as probably secondary after water, I would think, in food. But yeah, and I suppose that's meant to be sort of evoke the kind of was it the sort of apocryphal myth about the Romans salting the soil outside of Carthage, which didn't happen. I don't think. Not a chance. Well, there's always a chance, I suppose, but I don't think, again, salt's quite valuable, I think, in the ancient world. So he's going to save, basically, if Leto does this for Dr. Yuri, who's bonkers, and Leto's paralyzed at this point, he's done in, but he's going to save Paul and Jessica. And pretty much, he's going to secrete them amongst these people. That's the Fremen. Faking their deaths. And again, I suppose, I don't think, that he has a particularly detailed plan here. Leto can't answer, of course. Again, the sense this distance tugging Yuri's hand, and he's got the ducal signet ring for Paul. Yuri said, "You'll be unconscious presently. Goodbye, my poor Duke. When we next meet, we'll have no time for conversation." So this is the last chance they'll speak. Cool remoteness spread upward from Leto's jaw, across his cheeks. The shadowy hall narrowed to a pinpoint, with Yuri's purple lips centered in it. "Remember the tooth," Yuri hissed. "The tooth." There we go. Remember the tooth. Goodness gracious. I mean, yeah, it's a very quick, there's an awful lot happening very quickly. Very important little chapter. And of course, we've got real consequences to those who've been on Arrakis. We've got Chewik killed, we've got Mapes killed, and pretty much for such a short chapter, Yuri's betrayal's pretty full on. We get pretty much a glimpse that, in terms of motivation, we've always known what Yuri's the traitor, and we kind of know it's all for his wife. And that there's possibly a bit of a justification for it. We can't totally condemn him, but at this point, yeah, we figure it out in this chapter. Yuri is mad. Well, if we want to go with it, that's what Leto sees in his eyes. And I wonder, is it an instant madness, or is it just a culmination of everything that he's been through? To be honest with you, so it's in terms of, and sorry I misread a wee thing there. But very much interesting, a couple of phrases there, but my lovely weapon, I think, very much in particular, is quite important. Leto's become a weapon to be wielded by, Yuri's direction, basically. And he'll do it as long as I promise to save Paul and Jessica. His plan is to fake their deaths and secrete them amongst the Fremen, people who hate the Harkonnen, who kill the Harkonnen, who burn the furniture that the Harkonnen have sat on, and who supposedly would salt the earth where the Harkonnens walk. This kind of thing. So if we back to the epigraph at the beginning, folks, just if we remember, all of this: dreams, shadows, sleep, time has slipped away, life is stolen, tarried with trifles, victim of your own folly. It's just the immediacy of all of this just happens. I suppose we've lost two characters really quickly. We haven't seen what actually has happened to them. We know that they've both been murdered, probably stabbed from behind, but we don't get to see that. We've got the whole thing with Leto's tooth being paralyzed, and of course the reveal, at least, or the beginning of the overt action, if you like, of Dr. Yueh, who seems to be quite a nifty little assassin, I suppose, and he's made a devil's bargain with the Baron, and the whole reason I want to kill the Baron Harkonnen. And again, if you think about it, picturing it on the screen, I think some of the David Lynch stuff, if you think with Yueh, the tooth, did it very, very well. But again, just that kind of, I suppose, he's giving us that imagery at the very end of, the Duke's focus going to a pinpoint, these gigantic purple lips of Yueh, the tooth, remember the tooth. And so that's Yueh imprinting the idea of the tooth into Leto and giving him an incentive to act against the Baron. I think Leto would happily try to kill the Baron anyway. I don't think he would, I think the refuse, maybe refuse to do it for you, but I think Leto would have a go, to be honest. But there we go, folks. Let's have a wee look at your comments there. Just to catch up, Cynthia's got one there. And arming Leto as a weapon, Yueh must suspect that his wife is already dead. I'll finish your comment first, Cynthia. Sorry. Why kill the Baron if he fulfills his promise and releases her? Unless he wants to kill the Baron for breaking suit conditioning. I think that the idea is that there's some hope, if you see what I mean, that Juana is alive. But I think that I suppose possibly at this point maybe he's hid the madness, but Leto can see it here that he's gone mad. But I think it's that slight doubt, that slight possibility that I suppose that if even at the point where he's in the room with the Baron, if Juana was alive, he could stop, Leto, for example. So I think it's that point where no matter what, it's probably going to go for the fact that she's dead. In that case, he needs to have everything in place to kill the Baron at that point, because he's pretty certain, I'm sure, that he'll be dead immediately after anyway. And Juana's character, the mystery of Juana, as I called it, is one of those ones that is unsolved. I'm pretty sure. I must have a wee nosy in one sometime. Probably, if anybody knows, it's the God Emperor. But yeah, and I think it's one of those little things. This messenger turning up with this really important message at the beginning, a column of smoke by day, something that's smoky by day becomes fire by night. It's suggesting that something going on in the day is going to intensify and get really bright, by night, etc. Even if you just want to run with one, I wonder what this metaphor might suggest, where there's smoke, there's fire, as they say, that kind of thing, But we have a few of her, and again, if we think in terms of the characters that we've met here, I've always said I think the minor characters in general are massively, massively important. And you genuinely, when I'm reading this, Mapes' death is quite sad. Got to know Mapes a bit. Mapes has been a fun and interesting and curious character. And Chewik, I suppose, is Esmir Chewik, certainly a curious character. Smuggler, mysterious, So we have these two, and these are the people that the Atreides tend to want to work with, want to do business with, representing even certain groups, really, until we have kinds of Mapes as our Fremen representative. And so one of the Fremen's been killed already because of the Atreides feud with the Harkonnens, etc. And the smugglers have suffered a setback as well. But of course, everybody's going to get affected by this feud. And I think that's the one weird thing about it all, I suppose. I think whenever we get to the end of Dune, we can look at the legal work. I suppose there's a legalese to what Paul does at the end of Dune. But I get the sense that as much as this is all part of Canley, these people are victims, I suppose. Chewik's not a part of the Duke's household, is he? So technically, he's that's their feud has killed someone who's not involved, if you like, technically. Um, I don't know. It's an interesting one, but it's a fast. And I think our next scene's a fast little one as well. Beginning, there should be a science of discontent. People need hard times and oppression to develop psychic muscles. So yeah, we're going to go through this complete sort of coup d'état, and I suppose 19, 20, 21, 22, and I think, and that's us with the full kind of fall, if you like, of the Atreides, and then we're beginning book 2 of Dune, Muad'Dib, which is I'm looking forward to, I suppose, and it takes the reader on another shift and begins that immersion into Fremen way of life, Fremen culture, and life on Arrakis, which is great fun, I have to say. But yeah, just I think Yui suspects his wife's already dead. Yeah, and I suppose one of the other wee things I was saying, just in terms of if the fall of the House of Atreides, is similar to the fall of House of Atreides, what happens to Arrakeen, I suppose, is similar to the fall of Troy. But as much as you can look at Yui as a Trojan horse, if you like, but also that the Troy falls because of a medical reason, doesn't it? It's about the penance of the Greeks, I suppose, is that the horse is dedicated to the god Poseidon, whom the Trojans worship, but they leave a guy behind who's meant to have the plague, basically, and he's the bull, he's the deceit that suggests that all the Greeks have got the plague and they've all cleared off. Excuse me. There's Chris Gibson saying some scholars have linked the pillar of fire smoke reference to volcanoes, an unexplained phenomenon in the way back attributed to the supernatural. Ah, excellent. So I hadn't really put too much thought into that one there. I should have really done a wee bit more research onto it. Just been a bit of a funny weekend, folks. But yeah, again, pillars of fire that smoke. Again, certain cultures, the biblical reference is definitely, I think, there. And if you have a look at Lawrence of Arabia, the David Lean film, you see some of these real kind of I don't know, dust pillars, if you like, in the desert, etc. Very fascinating. Some scholars link the reference to volcanoes, unexplained phenomena in the way back attributed to supernatural. Ah, yes, and there's all sorts of that in, and particularly with the volcanoes, Chris. All sorts of that in Greek mythology. Particularly think places like Mount Etna and stuff like that, and supposed entrances to the underworld where certain monsters are kept chained. This kind of thing. So yes, the whole angry volcano kind of usually with the monster thrashing in its torment underneath. Yeah, absolutely. There's bound to be some kind of obvious metaphor there in terms of smoke and fire. And the thing is, it's we're just pointing out. Messenger turns up, a column of smoke by day, a pillar of fire, by night. By and this is somebody from another planet, I suppose. But it's what does it mean? He's completely baffled by it. And I figured if somebody has just taken the time to send you a message, even something like that, I would be curious about it. I wouldn't just pop it in my pocket and forget about it, especially with the sense of urgency and the fact that I've been trying to open relations with these people. But again, I think he's pretty distracted, and he's we're told he's passed, is it long 2 days since the dinner party, and no longer than that since he slept. 2 days is one thing, I suppose, but he's doing this on and off, and he's constantly taking fatigue drugs. I think his brain's not working really. I thought the phrasing of the bodies, as much as we have the lighting set up by Frank, the lowest lit dispenser lights 8 meters apart, that shadow and light thing. The bodies as kind of dull blobs, I thought is a bit of a failure, and I don't know, dull blob becomes something else, I suppose, as you get closer. It's a wee bit of a failure as an author, I would say. You could come up with something better there. And not to slag Frank's writing off. I think Frank's writing is great, but he has his moments, and these dull blobs are one of them. Frank's worst bit of writing, I think, is the sex scene with the sausages. If you want to go find that one, that's just appalling, and it's very funny because it's very, I don't know what it is, but it's a bit hoo ha. I think sometimes, you know. But there we go. Listen, folks, it's been a bit of a night, and I'm kind of grateful it's been a bit of a short chapter. And thank you very much for joining us. Hopefully, we'll have a bit. I'll be a bit more sort of focused with the next one for chapter 19 on. excuse me, on Thursday. As I said, I do thought we'd pop on and go with it tonight, but our one of our wee doggies is not too well. I think it's had a wee bit of a heart attack. We've been up early with her down at the vets and stuff like that. And it's also the wife's birthday, so we've been not having the best of days, if you like. But all is well anyway. But as I said, folks, that was a very short wee chapter. I think that's been our shortest one probably yet. And what we'll do is we'll get. Could the pillars be seen by someone sending smoke signals? A column of smoke by day, a pillar of fire. It could be a reference to we've seen signals, haven't we? Flashing lights, etc. And it could be a reference, I suppose, to that. Yeah. And again, yeah, smoke signals, etc. That columns of smoke leading to real danger, perhaps, you know. But at the same time, they sent a guy with a note. There you go. Somebody saying thanks. So no worries, guys. As I said, well, if you've got any other wee questions hanging over from this chapter, sure, we can have a wee look at them on Thursday if you can think of anything. So sorry to be a wee bit brief with this one tonight, but I've got to go. I've got a young, not a young dog. I've got my wee doggy downstairs needs a wee bit of love and care and attention, and I need to spend a wee bit of time with her, you know. So we'll say goodnight for tonight, and could be the Sardaukar signal to move on the house. I think it's metaphorical. I think it means what you thought was looking like smoke. I think the attack. I think it's suggestive that the attack is coming at night. You know, and at this point, dawn is yet a few hours away. In other words, it is night. I think the message is it's literally, and the Fremen's gotten out of there real fast, hasn't he? He hasn't hung around. He's literally, here you go, bye. I'm told he's disappeared. Where are we? Like a smoky shadow. So again, smoke, shadows, fire, the gloom, the imagery in this, you know, and the mewling sound of mapes. Quite a pitiful sounding kind of thing. And again, I thought that was a wee bit banshee-like, I suppose. But yeah, we've got real victims here. Characters dead, and it seems all the culminations of the different parts of the Baron's plan are finally coming together. And it's pretty much even the consideration, I suppose, that they thought, wasn't it that they thought Paul might die, but probably not. It looks like at this point that absolutely everything in the Baron's plan, including its variables, has gone bang on, you know. So there's Joseph saying hello there. Hi, Joseph. Joseph, I'm just about to wrap up, I'm afraid. Sorry. But we've just finished up there. So sorry about that. It's a wee short chapter, and it's just we've had a wee bit of a day with one of our wee doggies here, and she's pretty ill. And so I'm going to finish up with this one, and we'll see you on Thursday, as usual, folks, at 9 o'clock GMT. And as I said, if you have any wee questions hanging over from this one, we'll take them on Thursday. Hope the doggo gets better, says Babs. So her name is Miss Bo Wifferty. I'll tell you what, I'll show you to her very quickly. Hang on. That's her. That's her there. What a beautiful picture. You've seen a picture of me on the station, possibly with me and my top hat and my green Ulster coat, as you would call it. That's her. She's a Jack Russell with dwarfism. And you can see at the front she has what you call Queen Anne legs. So she has wee tiny front splayed legs at the front, normal sized, and so she's quite large for a Jack Russell. But that's her that we love, and she's very old. And she's such a kind thing. She was a rescue. But she's been with my dad for a long time to help look after him. and help him exercise and stuff. And they're just like, pardon me, they're just like that. His life. I can watch the review later. No worries, Joseph. Sorry, as I said, we're just going to run off, and it has also been my wife's birthday today. So I'm going to say happy birthday, Wendy. And again, sorry, love. She's not had a great birthday with just what's been going on. We've been out to the vets nice and early and so on. So it's just one of those things, isn't it? That's life. But there we go. That's the doggy's called Miss Bo Woofity, or Miss Bo Woofity Woo. Her real name's Bonnie. But absolute delightful young. I keep saying young. She's young at heart, young lady. She's my wee girl. Whenever I first got her at the shelter, they had a sign up on the wall, and it said, and I went down to go meet this dog for the first time, and I didn't know it was in relation to her. And in the shelter, they had Bonnie has massive diarrhea, and she wasn't there at the time. She was being walked, and she was brought in. She had a pink lead, a pink collar, and a pink nose, and was a bit mucky. And she had a wee history prior to that, but she's been with us for about I don't know 12 years now, and I think she's about 16. So there you go. So she's my dad's girl really, but originally mine, and we're just looking after her tonight with R2, so because our noodles is good company for, because they're like mother and daughter, I suppose, even though they're not. So there we go. Sorry, folks, that's me gushing on about my wee doggy. But look, I'll head on anyway, and I'll say thank you very much for joining us. And sorry, I said probably not my usual perky self, but hopefully we'll see you on Thursday with the next chapter as we go through the full fall of the House of Atreus, or of Atreides, if you like. And in the meantime, you look after yourselves, and no matter where you are, and take care. And I'll see you on Thursday at 9 o'clock GMT. Thanks very much, and all the best, folks. Good night. Bye-bye.